Welcome to Sex Ed with DB. I'm your host, DB. Let's get into it. Welcome to the final episode of Season 4 of Sex Ed with DB. First, I'll tell you about our incredible guest, Janielle Bryan, and then I'll tell you about some other fun stuff we got going on. Janielle Bryan is a public health professional and sexuality educator based in Philadelphia. She has experience in clinical research, health education, community health, and disease prevention. She's also the creator of The Sex Exchange. The Sex Exchange are sexual wellness events that allows attendees to explore the complex subject of sexuality through shame-free, pleasure-centered conversations. You can find her on Instagram and Twitter at _J by the way. That's letter J by the way. Before my amazing interview with Janielle, I want to share some amazing news. We're coming back for Season 5! Brr, 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 brr. Expect new episodes to come out starting October 2020. In the meantime, make sure you're subscribed to our newsletter as we have some truly awesome giveaways coming your way. And make sure to follow us on TikTok at SexEdWithDB. Without further ado, please enjoy the last episode of the season with the wonderful Janielle Bryan. Have you ever heard of Smile Makers? This vibrator brand was created to bring our pleasure products out of the sex shops and into the open. Never sold in adult stores, you can find their vibrators in retailers like Free People, Revolve, Saks Fifth Avenue, and more, as well as online. The design of their vibrators is very unique and elegant. Each of their vibrators was designed for a specific stimulation of the anatomy of the vulva. Focus stimulation on the clitoral glands as well as the G-spot. Check them out at www.smilemakerscollection.com and redeem your free bottle of generous gel lubricant with any purchase above $50 with my special coupon SEXEDDB. Have you had trouble getting birth control during quarantine? Meet Pandia Health. By people with uteruses, for people with uteruses, and led by a doctor, Pandia Health makes your life easier by bringing birth control by mail. Pandia Health offers free and confidential delivery of the pill so you don't have to go out of your way to get the healthcare you need. Skip the trip to the pharmacy. Go to pandiahealth.com, that's PANDIA health.com, and use code SEXEDDB to get $5 off your first telehealth appointment. Follow them on Instagram at Pandia Health. Sex Ed with DB is supported by Clone-A-Willy. Clone-A-Willy has been all about dick since '96, and all kits are hand-assembled in Portland, Oregon. All materials are 100% body safe, extremely high quality, and easy to use and clean. Use promo code SEXED20 for 20% off your purchase of any Clone-A-Willy or Clone-A-Pussy kit at www.cloneawilly.com. Follow them on IG at Clone-A-Willy Kit. Sex Ed with DB is supported by FemmeFunn. FemmeFunn empowers all to take control of their pleasure and sexuality by putting the most powerful products on the market into your hands. Electrify your intimate life with 15% off your first purchase. Go to www.femmefun.com and enter promo code SEXEDWithDB at checkout. That's www.femmefun.com. Follow them on IG at FemmeFunn. Janielle, welcome to the podcast. How's it going?
Great. How are you doing today?
Pretty good. I'm in, it's 2:00 in the afternoon. I'm still in my pajamas in my parents' house. So really quite living the dream during this Corona era. But nonetheless, I'm very, very excited for you to be on the podcast today. Let's go ahead and get started by you sharing your name, your pronouns, and your title at the organization that you work for or run.
Sure. So my name is Janielle Bryan. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm the creator of The Sex Exchange.
Amazing. And what is The Sex Exchange? Who's your audience? What's your overall goal? Kind of walk us through what it is and what you all do.
Sure. So I started it about 2 years ago, and it's been described a lot of different ways. I'm still workshopping on how to describe it because it's such a strange thing that I invented, and I'm so glad that people are down for the cause. But a lot of people call it a sexual health pop-up. So it's a mix between a sexual health panel and a game night.
Oh, how fun.
Thanks. Yeah, so I made something that I would want to go to myself. So the general format it usually follows is the first half is a panel. So I pick about 4 to 5 experts, quote unquote, and we all know that we are all our own experts on our sex life. But I usually pick people that I found in my travels, in my studies, in the work that I do that I find super interesting, that I want other people to get to know and hear what they have to say about the topic of sexuality. And I allow people to ask them questions. I ask them questions that I would want to know. And the second half is usually a game night. So I have a lot of fun games that I, engage the audience and also the panelists. Sometimes they want to, sometimes they don't. But, it's fun.
Gotta get them included.
Yes, everybody is included. Nobody's safe unless, you don't want to play, of course. Because I got my start in sex ed teaching youth, so people under 18. And I realized how much fun they had with the games and how much they learned without them even realizing that they're learning. And that never goes away, right? We all still love to play games as adults. A lot of people, I realized during this, the Corona COVID-19, as a resurgence of people, playing games, doing puzzles. Adults, we also like games.
Oh, so yeah. I play Settlers of Catan all the time. It's fantastic.
I went to Target to buy a puzzle and they were almost sold out.
People be puzzling. People are into it.
Listen, who knew? I'm now one of the puzzle people. I'm part of the crew. So I want to bring that same energy and that same excitement to learn to my events, even though they're for adults and not for children.
Yeah, so is it kind of like aimed at people who are maybe in need of a little extra like sex education? Is it kind of just 18 plus, whoever can attend? And what would you say kind of like the mission or like the goal of like, if I'm someone who attends, the sex exchange, game night, like activities, like what would your goal for me to be the takeaway of?
Sure. So it's really aimed at people 18 and up. If I'm serving alcohol, which I have done at one event, it's 21 and up. But anyone that can come can come. I put it out there on Instagram, on Facebook, on Eventbrite. And I've had people tell me the way that they found me like a million different ways. Like, oh, my friend, or I was scrolling, or I put in a couple words and you came up on Google. So it's pretty much for anyone that would like to come. And when I started this, I just wanted, like I said, I wanted an event that I made an event that I would like to go to, number one. But I made an event for people just to start the conversation. So my background is specifically in public health. I have my bachelor's and my master's in public health.
Oh, both. Double whammy.
Yes, I'm a nerd, but I'm I'm owning that. You know what? So
gotta know yourself.
Yeah. Thank you.
So yes, so I want to know exactly that. Like, so tell me a little bit more about your background. Like, how did it kind of lead you to creating this, the sex exchange? What were you kind of learning, and what's your own kind of sexual health journey that you were kind of like, hey, I think like this information needs to be, offered to so many more people?
So I finished with my bachelor's in public health, and I was like, I'm getting into research because that's where the money's at. And I was like, that's the plan. So I was trying to get into research, and actually Planned Parenthood was doing research. Planned Parenthood at NYU was doing a research study in a couple of different large cities across the country, and one of those was Philadelphia. So I was working part-time doing research at Planned Parenthood for NYU, and we're just looking at, the pregnancy rates, STD rates, HIV rates, all the different rates, all these numbers. That's all I looked at all day long as a researcher. And I realized the numbers have been pretty steady, as in they're not going up, but they're not going down either. And I started to think to myself, like, okay, it's great that they're not going up, but it's not great that they're not going down either, especially because Philadelphia has such a high rate of, STIs, STDs, and HIV. So I'm just like, that's interesting and a little disturbing. And then I started to think about like, oh, what's one of the reasons why it's not changing? I was like, oh, education. I was just like, I don't really see myself as an educator. So I took like a part-time job teaching young girls about HIV, STI, STDs, healthy relationships, just to, see, let's see what's up. Maybe I'm completely wrong. Maybe there's another reason why the rates haven't changed in such a long time. And I fell in love with it. Like, I loved it a lot more than I thought I would. I never saw myself as a teacher, but I realized because I was so passionate about it, that's why I loved it. Don't ask me to teach any other subject. Please don't.
Exclusively sex ed, which is just as necessary as every other subject, though. So that's great.
Yeah. And I realized that is one of the many compounding issues that, the rates in the city have not changed. And that's just something that I've wanted to work towards. I'm super passionate about. So, I've been doing that pretty much off and on for the last going on 10 years at this point.
Wow. And where did you get your MPH?
Okay, so I have my bachelor's in public health and a minor in healthcare management from Temple University. Okay. And I got my MPH from Drexel University. So I'm Philly educated through and through. I was just
going to say, you love that Philly. Philly's great. Philly's a fantastic city. And also, just another question, are the sex exchange events exclusively in Philly, or are they in other cities? Do you plan to have them in other cities?
So right now they're exclusively in Philly because, I'm in Philly and I am my own team. So I originally got the money for the first two events through a grant. So that was great, but that's also my first time. I'm an educator, I'm a public health nerd. I've never put on an event and I didn't know how to do it. It was really just guessing, asking people, hoping for the best.
Right.
I was like, oh, wow, this actually worked. I was surprised. Everyone else was like, oh, we knew you can do it. I was like, oh, no, I am genuinely surprised this worked out.
Well, I'm so glad they were right and that you did such a fantastic job. And so you've had how many events have you had in total thus far?
Just two. So okay. I had one in the fall, I think I'm trying to remember, what year is this? Listen, this March has been 5 years long.
I completely agree.
Fall of 2018 and then one in spring 2019.
Oh, perfect. Okay, so yeah, you're brand new basically, and especially if you're planning these big scale events, those definitely take months and months and months to plan.
Right. And I definitely, when I first started, I was I'm having them quarterly, they're going to happen all the time. And then when I realized how much time and effort and money goes into an event, I'm just okay, let me chill. So right now, I want to change the format a little bit. And also I would find people who would like to join my team. Because right now it's just me doing this.
So you're recruiting.
And I'm recruiting people to, join my struggle, not struggle, join the team and who are also just as passionate about, sex ed and health information and event planning who, can help me and help other people, learn a bunch of important information.
Oh, well, this is such an amazing opportunity. At the end of this interview, we will definitely make sure people hear your social handles and how they can get in touch with you, and people who are in Philly especially, listen up because Janielle is there and waiting for you to join the struggle bus team. The exceptional team of making your third event. So are you, with Corona, I'm sure everything is on hold, but do you have ideas as to what you want your third event to be? What is that looking like? What's kind of going to be maybe the theme of your next event and the goal of that?
Sure. So for my third event, I was brainstorming. I had planned to do it in the summer, but as you know, everything is pushed back. Now events have been canceled. So we're looking, hopefully, towards the fall. From a public health standpoint, I'm thinking we should be good by the fall, fingers crossed. So that would be the next one. And also, I'm putting it out there to my followers on Instagram and Facebook what they would like to see the next event to be. So the first one was sex and people of color, and the second one was sex and wellness. So each one of my events is sex and something else. Because often people put sex very much by itself in the corner, and they don't realize that sex intersects with so many things in our life. So I make it a point that each one is sex and to realize, sex is everywhere, not just, something you talk about late at night with the lights off, whisper. Like, I'm trying to bring it more into everyday conversation. So, yeah, the third event will be one that the people pick that they want to hear and they want to talk about.
Gotcha. Awesome. That's incredible. I can't wait to see the deets that come out about that, hopefully in the fall. I'm also crossing my fingers for you. Let's talk a little bit about why you think, so obviously you kind of have already spoken about, the fact that sex, it very much intersects with a lot of other daily interactions and conversations and relationships. Why do you think this information is particularly critical at this point in time? And, as we've already mentioned, we're in a point in time of the coronavirus, which right now, when we release this episode, it'll be summertime, but the effects of this virus will absolutely continue for, months, if not multiple years to come, based on the economy, based on, what folks will and will not have access to. So why do you think it's particularly important for folks to rally around sexual health education at this point in time?
I feel like you're completely right, and I agree with you. Like, the effects of this virus will definitely, it will ripple out into every section of our lives, right? And we feel the effects, and I feel like this is a catalyst for a lot of change. Like, it's an unfortunate way that it had to be like this, but I also feel like a lot of people are waking up to a lot of things now that, they're kind of stuck in the house and they're, realizing all these things, and there's all this information they're being inundated with. That sexual health and sexual education was being attacked before Corona.
Yes, it was. Yes. Sorry, keep going.
Health has been real. And we can even see now, like, certain laws that are being passed, even about abortion. And you realize there are people putting out, I read something online, which, might not be true, don't quote me. But they're being, like, even with a stimulus package and all these things that are coming out, they're kind of like underlyingly attacking abortion also as something that is non-essential. So people right now, we're locked inside. You might be with a partner or partners or, a friend that you like very much. And imagine if you don't know this, and now you can't even, if you, are pro-choice and you wish to do that with your body, you can't even do anything about it because politicians have taken this time to push their agenda across. Like, there's not, other things to be worrying about, like, the economy and people's health.
Right.
So you realize even in the most strenuous and stressful of times, people are still attacking sexual health. So I feel if they're going to be relentless, we have to be just as relentless also.
Oh my God, very powerful. I completely agree with everything that you said. And it's scary because depending on the state that you're in, of course, for example, like right now, right now it's April. Today's April 1st that we're recording this. And like currently there's a bill that's kind of being looked at by politicians to basically see if in Texas, the entire state of Texas, if abortion is able to happen, if that procedure is labeled essential or non-essential. And that means that many women, trans folks, non-binary people, marginalized communities are having their rights being taken away. And this is just a really scary time. So all the more reason to support people like you and organizations who are doing this incredibly important work. So kudos to you.
Thank you. And shout out to my educators in like Texas and in the Deep South. Whenever I go to like conferences or I meet them or I talk to them, I was like, I thought my job was hard hearing the work that they have to do. And they work so hard to not get that far and constantly being pushed back. I'm just like, you guys are some resilient people.
Truly.
Because the South is a whole different ballgame than it is, here in Philadelphia.
It really is, yeah. Let's talk a little bit about your MPH because I am also getting my MPH. By the time this episode comes out, I will have graduated from Columbia with my MPH despite finishing my degree online on the internet. And thank you so much. And I'm wondering how you feel you like what you've learned, I guess, from your MPH and how it's contributed to your sex education journey.
Sure. So I did a general MPH because that's the program that I was in, but I kind of focused on community health because that's what I've always worked in, whether it be in my sex ed jobs or the other jobs that I've had. I've always, focused on community health. And I just find it very interesting because, when, you start a class and people are saying like, oh, your name, what do you do? Your focus, where do you work? And I tell people I'm a sex educator. People, always kind of like giggle and they think it's cute or funny.
Mm-hmm.
And then don't realize how like sexual health is a part of community health and even public health. I feel like it's always forgotten or pushed by the wayside. So when I tell people like, oh, this is the work that I do, and they're like, oh, that's so great, that's cute. Like, oh my gosh, thank you for the work that you do. Not until I started talking and like breaking it down and kind of relating it to the work that they might do or how this, impacts public health or how it's a big part of public health, do people stop and realize like, oh, wow, it's more than just that one health class, I had in middle school or high school about, hygiene and using deodorant. Like it's so much more than that. And so my degree in public health kind of just made me double down on the work that I did, realizing how far we have to go in public health and the work that still needs to be done. In public health, I see a lot of research, right? A lot of numbers talking about like, oh, these are the problem issues. So whether it be like food security, environmental, health insurance. It's like, oh, these are the numbers. These are, what's going wrong. But I feel like public health, we're now at a point where we have enough data about, what's going
Oh my God. So I feel you so hard right now. I feel like that is exclusively what we do, and I'm sure a lot of public health programs are similar where like you read the research, you like synthesize the research and you translate the research. And like the research is very clear about the disparities that are going on. Like it's very clear that LGBTQ people are way more likely to attempt and commit suicide than their straight and cisgendered peers. Like we know that. And like what will 6 more research papers that say that exact thing really do rather than using that money to save lives?
You're speaking my language. Like we love to talk about health disparities or, the inequalities, and the discrepancies. Like those words, yes, they're great. Yes, that data is important. Mm-hmm. We're at the point in public health. We have the data. Should we keep on, refreshing and keep looking at it? Yeah, sure. But with this data, what are we going to do with it? Like, take this data, get off our asses, and make an effort to make a change instead of sitting back and just collecting data every year, 5 years, 10 years, and putting out a report. We know what it looks like, especially in community health. I'm out there all the time. I can literally see what the data is telling me. Mm-hmm. At this point, what are we going to do about it? And how are we going to make a tangible change so the next time we, collect this data, it looks different? Because I'm tired of looking at the same numbers.
Oh my God, I completely agree. God, I feel like this is just all I'm like writing about in my papers. People are like, all right, read about this research paper. And all I'm doing is like, this research paper isn't helpful. Like we need people on the ground and we need to help communities and we need to like empower communities. And like, of course, there's also a lot of like racialized issues, right? Because I don't know what it was like for your classes, but I would say a majority of my professors are white people. And as for myself, as someone who's mixed race and is like half white and like completely understands this really fucked up notion of like a lot of white people kind of going into other countries and doing global health and kind of like doing that work with a lot of negative consequences and repercussions of that. And I'm just really tired of that not really being central to the work that we're doing as well. I don't know if it was like that for your experience or what, if you have any thoughts about that.
Yeah, definitely. So to answer that, it's like, for me, it's twofold because like I said, I've been studying public health in Philly for the last 10 years, and Philadelphia is the 5th largest city in the country. It's the poorest large city in the country. So in the top 10 largest countries, we're the poorest. we have people in deep poverty. So if, say, the poverty line for a family of 4, this is just a number I'm making up, is $40,000, we have people living on $20,000. Deep poverty is living on half of what the poverty level is. So Philadelphia is a large city. It's poor. It's a very Black city also, which people don't realize when they visit. Because, you stay in like this general center city area, but Philly is a big-ass, poor-ass, Black-ass city, and I feel like they really do, the people here, as a Black woman, I feel like they do us injustice by, just how they allocate the funds and how they try to help, the city that needs so much help.
Completely.
So, where, my passion is coming from, not just like, yes, like for sex ed, but just like in general, when I do community health, it's like we need help. And I'm tired of just, seeing the same data over and over again.
Yes. Our next question actually is a perfect segue because you mentioned you had your event that was sexuality and people of color, sexual liberation for black and brown folks. Can you talk a little bit about how the decision of that being your first event and how maybe you connect the dots, at least in terms of black and brown folks who live in Philadelphia and folks who are also living in poverty, and why sexual health education is so necessary specifically for black and brown folks?
Sure. So, it wasn't a hard decision to make this my first event because I'm a Black woman and I'm just like, I'm going to put myself first for once. No one else is going to do it. So I wanted to have that first event for Black and brown folks in Philadelphia, especially because Philadelphia is such a Black city, a brown city. I'm just like, people will come. I just have to find them, but they'll come because they're obviously out there. And I had some free tickets. I had low cost tickets to just, hopefully bring out people who, otherwise couldn't or wouldn't spend money on something they might see as frivolous or quote unquote not necessary to their everyday lives. But I still wanted them to have that information. And I also wanted to see brown people on my panel because oftentimes, especially, in public health and in sexual health, if there is a panel, maybe there's one Black person, maybe there's one brown person. If they're brown and queer, that's 2 things right there. And everyone else is, white and maybe straight. So I feel like just seeing a panel of all brown folks was just something that I've been waiting to see for such a long time, or that I don't see as often as I would like. Like I might go to a conference and I might see that, but that's what, once or twice a year.
Right.
I want for people to see, yes, there's Black people, there's brown people, there's queer people, South Asian folks that are talking about this and who are willing to have these conversations and be open, and for people to feel seen, because that's important, and no matter what field you're working in.
Absolutely. Yeah, that makes total sense. Let's talk about perfect world scenario, for sex education. We're very far from that, as we see, especially with the current administration. It very much, like you were saying, as sex educators and people in the South feel 1 step forward, 2 steps back. And especially when ding dong Trump got into office, sexist, racist, xenophobic Trump, reproductive health plummeted, at least the funds that were coming from the federal government. So if our next president is someone who is more likely to support reproductive health, say the federal funds are there, say that there are more people who do see the value in sexual and reproductive health in schools for adults, what would sex ed look like? And kind of what would, your ideal event look like, I guess, within that kind of perfect world scenario?
That is a great question. From teaching younger folks and just talking to people and just reading, it's not, I don't believe there's any such thing as a sex talk. It's a series of talks that should never stop throughout your lifetime. There's definitely no way that you can have one talk, let's say an hour talk once in 7th grade to teach you everything that you're going to need to know about sex for the rest of your life.
Mm-hmm.
So preferably, I would like to have every year, like have, whether it be not even a health teacher, bring in a sex educator. Because while yes, health teachers are great and gym teachers are great, I had sex ed. My gym teacher showed us, the Miracle of Life, the movie. It's like questions, comments. All right, pick up this basketball. Let's go. I would like for my fellow sex educators to be brought into these schools and these communities to have a sex talk over from when, the youngest, like, I don't know, start like kindergarten, 1st grade, talking about, just autonomy and just like touching and, have, this personal space, start there. And then you can always work your way up and build on it, throughout the years instead of dumping all this information. Most of the time it's scare tactics or it's outdated once in their lap and, ask them like, oh, questions, comments? No? All right. Well, good luck for the rest of your life. Like that's not what sex ed should look like. So I would like sex ed to be spread out more over, years instead of just, once. And as adults, like, I would like to see more events. Like, I would like to go to events that I'm not actually putting on. So I can just
you want to be an attendee.
Yes, I love to be in the audience. I will support you. Like, and I try to support people as much as possible when they have these events, because I want them to keep having them. Because even as adults, we feel like we get to this point, oh, I've been having sex for a couple years. Like, I know the things. It's like, but do you? And also, as you grow older, you learn different things about yourself. Even if you're with the same person, your partner might change and they might learn different things about themselves. And you should always be educating and like learning about sex and expanding your knowledge and expanding, your imagination and sex is fun. Like,
yes. All the things.
All the things, what I'm saying? The same way that like medicine is a practice because you have to keep learning. I feel like sex is also a practice. Keep learning, keep trying things out, be creative, imaginative, laugh, cry, all of these things. So I feel like people should keep on learning about sex, talking about sex. If anything, at my events, I'm just glad that people show up, even if they don't talk, because that is the first step. And to go back to something that you said earlier about how, like, especially in public health, global health, a lot of people, whether it be white people or privileged people, because we're privileged, to have our masters, because it costs a lot of money.
Yep, it very much does. Gonna definitely be in debt for a while, but that's, that's my burden to bear because I'm very lucky to have an MPH.
Right. So we're also privileged and we're going into these communities and like, hoping that we're doing the best we can by them. And that's great that, people are out there doing that work. But as with anything, I feel it starts with a single conversation. So even if people come and they don't play my games or you don't say anything or you don't ask questions, they're there for the conversation and that means something. Well, to me anyway.
Yes, it absolutely does. Wow. So much good stuff. This has been such a fantastic conversation. I would love it for you, especially, we definitely have listeners out there in Philly. So whoever's listening in Philly, I would love for them to hear, and for everybody, obviously, to hear your social media and where they can access your content, and where they can find you and find your events.
Sure. So on Instagram, so for my events, the Sex Exchange is just the Sex Exchange on Instagram. So you can follow me there to be updated on when our next event is, hopefully this fall. DM me if you're interested in learning more, you want to, participate, you want to help me plan, you want to vend, you have an organization. Because my last event, we had different organizations come out and table at the event so people can get information. So I'm trying to do more of that. So more than just like an event, but also expanding into, people can vend and like different organizations could come and people can learn about the great things that they're doing, especially here in Philly because it's such a large city. Mm-hmm. So, if you want to get involved, vend, just talk to me. The Sex Exchange on Instagram. Me personally, if you want to just talk to me there, follow me there, see what I'm up to. Other than the Sex Exchange, is _JBYTHEWAY. So _J, by the way. And our website is our website is thesexexchange.org. You can also find us on Facebook. So if you put in The Sex Exchange, it should pop up.
Incredible. And last thing, if there's like anything that you feel like we didn't get to talk about, or if you feel like there's kind of like one message to our listeners that you really, really want to get across, what would that be?
I guess because we just talked about it, that everything starts with a single conversation, and sometimes that's enough. So even if you can't make it to an event, how about you just talk about sex more with your friends, or friends that you don't usually talk to sex with them? Just, broach that conversation if they're comfortable and see what they say, because you might be really surprised and wonder like, maybe I should have this conversation with them more often, or just see where their head's at. And maybe you might find out something about your friend that you would never know otherwise.
Sex Ed with DB is supported by ioba.toys. ioba.toys started in December 2018 when Francesca and her husband Martin decided to tackle a problem that always bothered them with sex toys: the noise. And so, the Oh My G, a super silent G-spot massager sex toy, was born. Use promo code SEXED25 for 25% off your purchase at www.ioba.toys.com and follow them on Instagram at ioba.toys. Ever look at your penis or vulva in the mirror and be like, damn, my part is art? Clone-A-Willy definitely agrees. The original penis casting kit, Clone-A-Willy, and the classy counterpart, Clone-A-Pussy, are easy to make, sex positive, and body safe. While Clone-A-Willy makes for the most personalized sex toy on the planet, Clone-A-Pussy makes for the most unique memento. All materials are 100% body safe, extremely high quality, and easy to use and clean. Check them out at www.cloneawilly.com and use promo code SEXED20 for 20% off your purchase. Follow them on Instagram at Clone-A-Willy-Kit. Bring some queer, fat, feminist art into your home or into your business. Andrea Forgacs is an artist that creates pieces that are queer, inclusive, body positive, and self-loving. With her art, you'll be sure to make a statement wherever you need it. Go visit AndreaForgacs.com, that's Andrea, FORGACS.com, to commission your own piece, or download one of her illustrations in the shop. Sex Ed with DB is supported by Pandia Health, the only doctor-led birth control delivery company. Here are some fun facts about Pandia Health. Most birth control is free with insurance, or $15 per pack without. Your birth control comes with free delivery and free goodies. And you can get an online doctor visit if you need it, which is perfect during COVID-19. Go to pandiahealth.com, that's PANDIA health.com, and use code SEXEDDB to get $5 off your first telehealth appointment. Our creator, co-producer, sound engineer, and host is me, Danielle Bezalel, aka DB. Our co-producer and communications lead is Cathren Cohen. Our main logo and banner graphic were created by Andrea Forgacs. Our social media intern is Leslie Lopez. Our music theme is by Hook Sounds. Our ad music is by my stepdad, Bill Gant. Thank you so much to our featured guests, partners, and our listeners. If you're interested in advertising with us, email us at sexedwithdb@gmail.com. For more sex ed content, follow us on Insta at sexedwithdbpodcast. Tune in next time.